Comrade Bernie was on Meet the Press this weekend, and he was politely asked about this violence is bad, okay, but kind of line of argumentation you've been hearing from Bernie and Elizabeth Warren and AOC and a variety, a wide collection of men and women on the left over the last week or week and a half since that murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This is what Comrade Bernie had to say.
Elizabeth Warren obviously understands killing and murder and shooting somebody in the back is totally unacceptable.
But
what I think has happened in the last few months is that what you have seen rising up is people's anger at a health insurance industry which denies people the health care that they desperately need while they make billions and billions of dollars in profit.
Well, we have some fresh hell, pardon my Dorothy Parker paraphrasing. A socialist clothing company has is now putting out, and the owner of this socialist health clothing company is posted online about killing CEOs. By the way, socialist clothing company, for-profit business. The irony is lost on him, as you sort of could assume. The individual's name is James Haar. He announced that he is putting together a deck of cards of most wanted CEOs, completed with the names and faces and decorated with illustrations of gun range targets. Inspired by the most wanted Iraqi playing card decks distributed during the 2003 invasion of Iraq, you may recall. Back in my day, I remember the Heartland Institute put out a deck of playing cards with all of the great free market economists. That was rather tepid, I suppose, compared to the heady avant-garde days of socialists like James Haar of the Comrade Workwear Company. By the way, just another bizarre twist in this. The lawyer for the man who has been charged with the United Healthcare CEO killing and the lawyer for P. Diddy Combs are a couple. They're married.
Yep. And they raised $100,000 for his defense fund because women are so enthralled with his 14-pack abs.
Well, that's chump change compared to what their fees will be, I'm sure. But I just, boy, there's a fun couple to hang out with. There's a Saturday night dinner, couples night.
Yeah, like, how's your day? Well, how was your day?
No, I want to more like climb into the heads of these criminal defense lawyers representing the United Healthcare CEO and P. Diddy, especially P. Diddy, frankly. I think that has a lot more layers than Mangione. For more on this topic and perhaps others, pleased to be joined by Neal Pollack, who is the editor-in-chief of Book and Film Globe and the author of 11 books of fiction and nonfiction, including Edge of Safety, A Future Tale of Arbitrary Lockdowns and the Deeply Caring Citizens Who Love Them. He's a satirist, in case you're not picking it up. I loved his, I've read his book, Jewball. Gosh, this has to be 10 years ago. Very funny. The plot wouldn't lead you to believe it was funny, light, but it was. Neal Pollack, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, guys. How are you? Nice to be back.
The controversial stance that murder is bad, you can't say that without contextualization.
Yeah, it's funny. I listened to that Bernie Sanders quote you just played. I didn't really sense that there was some sort of rising anger against healthcare CEOs. I mean, I don't love the health insurance industry any more than anyone else, but suddenly murdering executives is okay. I was shocked. I was shocked by the turn things took, and I wrote a piece for the Spectator, the Spectator World about this, I went out on Friday, like a couple Friday nights ago, and I went to a stand-up comedy show, and suddenly one of the comics was like doing a routine about murdering healthcare CEOs, and then I went to trivia night the next night, and one of the teams was called "More CEO Murders, Please." And so I posted on Facebook. I was like, "This is just not right. This is ridiculous. You can't be calling, you can't be saying that murder is okay." And people went berserk on me, and they were justified. People started justifying it, and I was like, "Where did they get their marching orders from? How did this suddenly become a thing?" It was not in the zeitgeist a month ago. I'm sorry, it just wasn't.
And he didn't even have United Healthcare as his health insurance company.
Yeah,
which
well,
is so.
exactly.
I mean, ancillary issue. But this thing, I'm with you on the same camp. This is so bizarre to me that people are celebrating. He's like a folk hero. Murderers are not folk heroes. And he was so much more privileged than Brian Thompson. If you read his story and know where he's from, and he's from a tiny town of 300 people, and he was a soybean farmer, and that's what he did for his summer job. And he played football, and he went to University of Iowa and graduated with honors from the business school and gave back to the Tippy Business School. And then they're celebrating him like he's some evil, demonic monster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he was just a guy, who had a good paying job. And again, that look, our healthcare system is messy, and the insurance industry is screwed up. But that doesn't there's no but. There's no but. You can't follow it with a but. I don't understand the line of thinking. It's crazy. I had one guy, screaming at me, comparing, Mangione to John Brown. Going on and on and on, and I'm just like, what are you doing? What are we talking about? Come on, get your compass in order, people. Jeez.
Well, you want to hear something? I mean, in terms of that comparison.
Yeah.
How about Mangione in comparison to Daniel Penny? Here was Stephanie Ruhle on MSNBC making that connection.
Topic, because there's something else I really want us to cover, because there has been huge reaction in the last week, right? We saw Daniel Penny, his acquittal. And at the same time, and a very, very, very different situation, but Luigi Mangione, the man who's now accused of the murder of the United Healthcare CEO, two very different situations. But in both situations, there's a person dead. And reactions that we are seeing are hugely celebratory in some circles, right? J.D. Vance is taking Daniel Penny to the Army-Navy football game tomorrow. And what we've seen in the last few years, right, we see the media divide us. We see that, sex sells, but anger and hate sells even more. How concerned should we be, though, that the American people, groups of the American people, are celebrating violence? Like, violence, that's the solution. That's what everyone should be doing these days. How concerned are you that this is where we are in this?
So celebrating Daniel Penny's acquittal is the same thing as celebrating Mangione's murder.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is like, Penny was acquitted after a trial process. If Luigi Mangione is acquitted by a jury of his peers, then maybe that makes sense. But I don't know. But look, those two situations are not the same. They're extremely different stories. But I just find myself continually shocked at the way people are talking about this guy. It just makes no sense, and it makes no sense. And again, like I said, I don't feel like, maybe, obviously, there's an issue here, because a lot of people come out with stories of getting care denied by the healthcare industry, by the health insurance industry, and people. There's medical debt, medical bankruptcies is a problem, but this is not the way to bring up issues.
No, but it is for the left. And I mean, Stephanie Ruhle is intentionally conflating those. Somebody defending themselves and others, a reasonable belief that you are subject to serious bodily harm or death, defending yourself. That violence is the same thing as shooting a CEO in the back in cold blood because you have a problem with how health insurance policy works. But that is what the left does. This is not like they're confused. Bernie Sanders is bringing this up not just because it's his hobby horse, government takeover of healthcare, but because this is his way to appeal to the 2/3 of Americans who've seen, according to Gallup, the quality of their health care decline since Obamacare was passed. And now this is an opportunity to not only address the failure at the ballot box with middle Americans, middle income Americans across the fruited plains, but also to seize the opportunity to talk about government takeover of healthcare again, which they feel is like one of their sweet spots. Government is here to make things better for you, as government, even though government has made things worse for you in the last 15 years. This is what they do. Boogeymen.
Look, I don't have any solutions. I'm not that smart, right? I don't have any solutions about the healthcare system. I just kind of float along, from one situation to another throughout my life, hoping to find something that is relatively affordable. And that's just, it's been that way my whole life. But I think that you can appeal to middle Americans and say, hey, we need to reform the system. But I think the average person is not sitting around saying that it's okay to murder.
No, of course not.
So that's the thing,
not.
right? It's like, if you want to engage this issue, why didn't they engage it? Neither of the candidates talked about health care much during the campaign. It wasn't something that was being debated. So if it wasn't an issue in September, why is it an issue in December? And why is it an issue being framed in this way, in this weird way, where all of a sudden, like, half the people I know are defending murder. It's just bizarre. And as someone who tries to see the humorous side of life, you just have to laugh. You have to be like, you don't laugh at a guy's death, but you do have to laugh at the just absolute moral idiocy of people.
Yes. Yeah, the inanity of it all.
Chris Rock talked about it in SNL in his monologue.
Yeah, he didn't, but he talked about it he called Brian Thompson a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, that's
the First Amendment protects all jokes,
Yeah, of
whether
course.
they're funny or not. But I'm just like, that's just the wrong take, man. It's the wrong take.
I wanted to because you're so good at the lighter side of life, as you just mentioned. I mean, the piece that you wrote about the disappearance of literary men, sort of getting after this professor from, where was he? University of Nevada or something?
Yeah, UNLV.
UNLV, Running Rebels. I mean, this people should go read this at bookandfilmglobe.com, but it's very funny. But just address the topic of the lack of the literary man, literary fiction, no longer the province of men, and this is some sort of concern.
Well, yeah, and this guy wasn't even. Well, first of all, he's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth, right? He's saying that, like, men no longer have any positions of power in the literary industry. There's no more male writers. There's no more male editors, et cetera, et cetera. And then he's like, this is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because there's no more male writers. I'm like, so what are we doing here? And then he's like, we need more literary men to address the fact that, there's a crisis of masculinity in Donald Trump and Joe Rogan and the World Wrestling Federation and mixed martial arts. I'm like, so in other words, is it a problem that men are eating hamburgers too? I mean, this is just like, he's just like, if you want to appeal to men, write books about what men are interested in. And then I thought about it, and I was like, I still read. I like books like that. I like spy novels and horror novels and fantasy novels and sci-fi novels and books with submarines in them. I mean, if you want to appeal to men, just put a submarine in a book.
Is that so hard?
Yeah, it doesn't. You can just do a submarine scene, and you'll be good to go. Just put Napoleon in it, or it's like it's not that hard. Men like to read, but they don't necessarily like to read quote unquote literary fiction. So I don't know. I've spent I feel like half my life just like making fun of like pretentious literary people, and I'm like, people just want to read fun and exciting books about things they're interested in. Stop trying to be literary.
Maybe Doug Emhoff will take up being a novelist.
Yes.
To address that toxic masculinity culture problem.
Oh yeah,
have.
I just think Doug Emhoff should just. What was that thing that was going around earlier in the year? How often do men think about the Roman Empire? And I'm like, all the freaking time. I mean, because nothing can make you happier when you're like taking out the trash or doing the dishes or just walking your dog or whatever. Just have a little thought about the Roman Empire. I mean, I loved Gladiator too. I know it wasn't a great movie, but I mean, I mean, that's like if you want to appeal to literary men, just make more movies about like toga wearing monkeys wearing diapers.
That sounds about Neal Pollack, editor-in-chief of Book and Film Globe, author of 11 books of fiction and nonfiction, including Edge of Safety, A Future Tale of Arbitrary Lockdowns, and The Deeply Caring Citizens Who Love Them. Pick that up. And Neal Pollack also looking forward already to Gladiator 3. Neal, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
This is Sean Thompson here to tell you about our 2024 Food for the Poor campaign. We've partnered with Food for the Poor once again to provide life-saving food for thousands of children and their families in Latin America and the Caribbean.